Welcome, warriors. Welcome back for another episode of the Wellness Warrior podcast. I'm so excited. I have one of my personal friends on who is absolutely brilliant in all that she does. And she is really a heart-centered human. And since this season, we are focusing on heart health and all matters of the heart. She is the perfect guest to unpack much of the work that she does, how she helps others go from head to heart, and really truly how she's bringing people together so that they can fulfill and even feel what it is to be aligned and truly encompassed in a heart-centered movement. And so Beth James of Barefoot and Free Yoga is here to join me. And Beth, I'm so grateful that you said yes. Thank you for coming on to the Wellness Warrior podcast. Thank you. Thank you. I would love for you to begin, because I could say a million things about you, but I'd love for you to give a brief introduction of who you are. I know that's such a big question, and whatever comes forward for you, our warriors will be so excited to meet you. So introduce yourself, love.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for having me on. It's so great to see your face and to be here. Yeah, I mean, I'm very much, it's like that question is like, okay, who am I today? Who am I thus far? Well, so I've been a yoga teacher as like my longest career occupation for over 20 years. And so that's like been most of like the sea that I've swam in as an adult. Because even before I was a yoga teacher, that was like my passion and where I was spending majority of my time. But Barefoot started 10 years ago, and that really came from kind of just like a very whimsical dream of being at the land where we have the festival, pregnant in my friend's wedding, and being on one of the fields where we practice and thinking like, oh, this would be such a cool place to like come and do yoga with people. So for many years in the beginning of my sort of CEO career as like a business owner, I didn't really think of myself as that, because I felt like I just kind of created something from like this sort of whimsical, like dreamy space. And then as it grew, and then as more things kind of came, and it was that same period of time I started leading yoga retreats and international retreats. Um, I feel like I'm one of those people in their 40s that's like just feeling like an adult now. Where I just get glimpses. My oldest turned 11 yesterday, and it's like, oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Like maybe I'm a little bit serious. Like I have an 11-year-old, I've like cared for her for 11 years. Like, woo. So I feel like that a lot of the times. I feel kind of like I'm getting better at not feeling like I'm an imposter, whether it's like an imposter mom or imposter like businesswoman or like CEO or like, I don't know, last year was the first year I started coaching people on like, I called it the embodied leadership of like what it means to host retreats and events. Because for years people had asked me, but I always felt kind of like, I don't feel qualified, And so I guess who I am where I am right now is I feel like I'm finally in this place where I'm recognizing like some of the experience, the trials and tribulations of my life and what I have to offer as far as like sharing my story and helping other people. And that also is like bringing me a lot of joy right now, like coaching and doing more one-on-one work and watching other people kind of, be in that same scenario where they're like dreamy and they don't know. And that's exciting to me because I'm like, oh, that was me. That can actually be how things begin. So
Oh, I love that. And I love it. And I've been so blessed. You've been so kind to allow me to be involved in, a few years of this dream and get to bring my dream to life. And I always say a great leader is someone who builds a dream big enough that others can live their dream within it. So definitely appreciate that you create that and cultivate that for so many who are really moving in the way of wellness and movement and holistic living. And you've always been, in my eyes, a CEO and a leader. And I also know what that is to see that in someone else. And then when we think about it like for ourselves, we're doubtful. We're wondering like, do we even have the capacity to hold this space? And I know that also, when it comes to that sacred land, I feel so grateful when it comes to Barefoot and Free Festival, which you guys happens the first weekend of every August. In fact, this will be your 11th year. I know you said 10 years. However, we've turned the clock. And so you're actually in countdown to your 11th year of this festival. And I'll let you tell people more about what happens there and a little, what that really has transpired to be. I'll say for me, that is literally the land I've raised my babies. That's the river where we paddleboard and we swim and we take our pups and all of the things. And so it has always been, and my body of work with self-love, Proud, Grateful, Desire, and Love, PGDL, and it's called Proud Lake Recreation Area. And so it has always had this divine meaning to me. And so I'd love for you to tell, because I've been blessed also to be able to bring many of our warriors who have flown in from all across the country to come and attend this festival. And it gets rave reviews. Every single person, still this week in our daily self-love circle, someone was once again talking about their experience at Barefoot and Free. And they were talking and really raving about how it truly sets you free. It gives you the opportunity to release all of these ideas of what you have to be and to go experience. So tell people a little bit about what to expect if they are to join us next summer and come and be barefoot and free in the woods with us.
Oh my gosh, I love everything that you just said, first of all. And I want you to repeat, what did you say about proud? How did you break down proud?
Yeah, so my body of work, the journal that we have, the companion journal to the daily self-love practice, is PGDL, and those are our 4 things that we share. So for 3.5 years, every morning, 5 days a week, we met in circle. Over 200,000 people have joined in on that practice. Now that practice is allocated to Fridays exclusively, and we dive in Monday through Thursday on other topics that help us to unpack and gain awareness around our ability to love ourselves. And so you can see the synchronicity of Proud and then being at Proud Lake and being with someone who I believe deserves to be so proud of the way that she has brought such incredible love and unity, definitely to this local community, but really people travel from all over. So when they travel, what are they coming to experience? Because I know, and the community that's joined so far knows, and I'm always hoping more warriors will join me every summer to come and experience what it is that you cultivate there in the woods. So tell them a little bit about that festival.
Yeah, well, so first of all, so the land is really sacred to me too. My parents still live, their property backs up to Proud Lake. So that, and the friend that I was in her wedding, we went to elementary school together. So I grew up very much, I have a lot of nostalgia for my 80s childhood where I just was in the woods. I'm always telling my daughters, I'm like, just go outside and talk to yourself in the trees. And they're like, Mom, that's weird. And I'm like, that's what I did when I was a child, literally. So yoga, like I said, has been kind of the spiritual bread and butter of my life. But besides yoga, my other sanctuary, my other place where I've always felt connected to spirituality before I even could vocalize or be conscious that that's what it was doing for me has always been in nature and specifically in the woods. So when I had my first daughter, my parents still live there. And I spent a lot of time there when I was a new mom. And that would be my place also to just feel myself again, whether I was going for a run or a walk or a bike ride, it's my space to be alone. And every time I do that, I do feel like that is a way that I love myself. I do feel like that is a way that I get centered. I also do feel like that's a way where the downloads come and the creativity comes. And a lot of my ideas that have now become my business come when I go to those kind of spaces. So when I conceptualized Barefoot, it was really this idea of just combining all of the things that I think are what are that create wellness and healing. And because the other big one is community, and you spoke of that, bringing people like you and providing a space where it's the cheesy quote, if you build it, they will come, where all these people like you come. And every year it's almost it almost seems ridiculous how the people all come together, and it's all of a collection ultimately of all of the presenters and the teachers and the practitioners, right? That because it's a whole weekend of 100 or so offerings, and so it's yoga, but it's more of the bracket of all things like wellness. So, you can have workshops like yours. You can learn about like how to make your own sourdough. You can learn about native plants. You get on the water. You work with like shamanic healers. You work with sound healers, Reiki. So there's so many things happening. And then just you're in an interesting environment, because in my my young years, I loved festivals. I loved fish. I loved the Grateful Dead, even though I was like, a little young to miss them. But that world is such like a party world. Like you go to a festival and you have a great time, but you might come home and not feel so great, And so as I also like got healthier and cleaner, the idea of being in a space that's like a festival, celebratory, very fun environment, but feels like we're very child friendly, like my kids are there the whole time, that feels very safe. But in that same like place where you want to dance and be maybe weird or just be whatever kind of version of self there you want to be, and you want to feel free to express yourself, but without needing to be in a space where you're intoxicated and you're in spaces where, it goes from like feeling great to really weird really fast. So I am really proud that I think that's something that Barefoot has maintained, that it is this like very family, nature, community kind of environment that people appreciate. People want these spaces to go and like dance barefoot and be up late or be up early in the morning and feel supported, because to me, that's also a form of like our wellness and how we love ourselves and how we feel good in our body is also just like celebrating life. And I spent so long in my teenage years and my early 20s thinking that always needed to be in like party settings. And so it feels really good and of integrity to provide that kind of space for people. And especially now as a mother, and like show them like, no, there are other spaces where you can do that. You don't just need to like go to a bar and get hammered to like let yourself be free. Like you can actually be here. And as you know, energy is contagious. So I can see it on my retreats. I can see it even a small event, even when you and I did an event. You can see what happens with people where they see other people giving themselves permission to just be themselves, right? Whether it's cry or laugh or let down their guard or, share something about themselves, it becomes really freeing and it creates this ripple effect. So people come in there and they don't know what to expect. And maybe they are guarded and maybe they don't know about yoga or think they know enough, but they come in and it's like you start to see, it chisels away at them a little bit. And honestly, that's what, as far as the festival goes, that's what keeps me going. It's just like bearing witness to people and being like, wow, like I provided a space for you to have that. Like that's an amazing thing for people, and we need more of it. And also like, COVID almost like ruined my business because obviously I'm an in-person business, so this would technically be the 12th year, but it's the 11th time. But what I really found was after COVID, like people wanted it even more, like the virtual space is amazing and there's so many gifts and benefits that I love, but like being together, there's something I just don't think we can replace it. I just think that's an irreplaceable part of our wellness and part of even like you're speaking of heart. It's like when I get to see you and I get to hug you and I can like be in your energy and really feel you, that is, yeah, I mean, to me, it's irreplaceable. So
I
I don't know
agree.
if that
I
answered your
agree.
question, but
It did beautifully. And for those that are wondering, yes, it is kid friendly. As you said, yes, there are opportunities to both camp or rent spaces in the bunkhouse. And the beautiful thing is whether you want to pack your lunches and bring them, if you want to bring your own food, or if you want to purchase from the incredible vendors, you always make sure that there's an array of food, whether you're vegan and you want to eat super clean, or you want to get a little grimy and have some of that, that home cooking, from juicing to all of those things. And there are also beautiful vendors that align with this mission of wellness and holistic living. And so I know that some people are like, well, I don't do yoga. Can I come? And it's a reminder. I mean, my favorite experience every single year, without question, is dancing, whether we're dancing in the rain for the ecstatic dance or we're dancing, to house music, and watching the talent show too. I know we had one of our warriors up there, and it was the first time I ever got to see him sing live in person. And he's been a singer his whole life, but we wouldn't have been able to have that moment with someone that means so much to us without these fun opportunities. So it's lighthearted. You can go and you can really dive in a workshop that takes you right to the root of something that you want to discover too. And so I know that you do a little bit of, and I feel so blessed because I get to be included yet again this year. And so I'm super excited in January that I'll be coming to the mini fest that you have. And again, the reason I'm talking about these events is because I do believe exactly what you said. Heart to heart, belly to belly, eyeball to eyeball is where we are really exchanging. We're having like that heart energy. We're able to exchange the love frequency so easily. And it's felt and it can encompass you and you can feel supported and permission to release because of the way that others are around you. And so for the mini fest, this is a smaller version, I would say, a more contained version of that bigger vision. And so this year, there's a new location. So people can fly in because it's not that far. Pinckney is only about 45 minutes from the DTW airport. So super achievable for people to come in and experience. And I know a lot of locals are already snagging up the tickets. So what makes you most excited about the mini fest? Because it is different. It's obviously not outdoors. So what makes you most excited about that experience?
Well, I mean, honestly, and I've been saying in the advertising because it's true, it's the truth. In many ways, it's my favorite offering now because, as you know, being a woman who wears many hats and does many things, it is a lot easier for me because it's one day. Barefoot, mind you, almost like kills me every year. And then I like have to retreat all of August and be like, oh my gosh, can I, go on here? So it's much more manageable energetically for me. Also, I really call it now. I'm like trying to describe it to people. I'm like, it's like a mini festival. I named it Mini Fest, but it's like retreat meets mini festival kind of condensed into one because there are multiple offerings. Like you're going to be offering and doing your workshop there, and there'll be maybe 10 to 15 teachers. So you'll get a taste, right? And you can choose. And then there's many healing wellness practitioners, also optional offerings. There'll be a sauna and a cold plunge. We have food, we have vendors. But it really provides being more intimate, a chance to be in this that shared collection of energy with people for a day and kind of serves the best of like your introvert, extrovert self, because you can dive in deep. A lot of these workshops and these teachers are very deep, insightful, very seasoned. They have a lot of wisdom to bestow on you, but also it can be lighthearted and playful and fun. And my other thing that I like about it and why I created it is winter is typically is kind of hard for me. So having something to look forward to in the beginning of winter and having this time, to set like the tone of the energy of the new year in this very mindful and very intentional space with other people is really nice. And even just again sharing from our hearts. Like, I know it's hard for a lot of people in Michigan in the winter, and we tend to kind of coop up. And yes, we rest more. And yes, there is less daylight, but also, the new year, even it does, there is a little spark. And yeah, and I always look for really cool locations. And I was feeling like I wanted something different for this. And I was searching and searching. And when I saw this house, I'm like, this is it. Like, this is the place. It's this gorgeous, very big log cabin that was actually built in Canada. And then they did that design where they build it and then they take it apart and then they put it back together. And it's just beautiful. So it kind of feels to me like you could be in Colorado or you could be in like Utah, but you have a lake view from both sides. And there's a lot of really cool little like nooks and places where we'll be able to practice and meet. And they have these roaring stone fireplaces. So it just feels like a really great place to spend a day with people in January.
So all of this is obviously centered around heart-centered work. Like you said that it was a whimsical dream, and I believe that may have come into your third eye and it really landed in your heart. And that's what has created and cultivated the consistency in putting one foot in front of the other and bringing it to fruition. And so when you consider doing heart-centered work, whether it be your coaching or hosting an international retreat or hosting something locally, what are the ways in which you get really clear? And I know you said nature as one of them. And again, if people aren't able to make it to your experiences, what I hope through this conversation is that they seek out these kinds of opportunities, that they look in their local territory, that they look for these teachers and these spaces that bring forward the opportunity to get a little touch and a little taste and to experience these things either at a smaller scale or where they can dive in deeply. Because when you hear two humans who absolutely value being connected to others, and we do it in these ways on purpose with purpose. So when you get that inkling in your, in your belly, like what really helps you ensure that it's in alignment for you, that it deserves your attention and that you're going to bring it to fruition? Like, how do you know the difference between something that's kind of a fleeting idea and something that is really heart-centered work?
Well, I think that there is a difference between the head and the heart, first of all. And I think that when you want to be like heart centered and you want to be guided by the heart, there may be in the beginning a little bit of discernment that you do have like different internal dialogues. And so I think the first thing would be finding out what it would be for you that helps you get kind of calm and relax in your body enough. I think that's really important to be able to hear like what is coming through and where it's coming from. Because to me, when I'm connected, when I'm heart centered and it's coming from like this place, it's coming really, I would also describe it as like my higher self, or like my fully embodied self is another way I describe it. That's like ultimately, it's not just because it's for me, it's because it is something that is of benefit to others. To me, heart centered work is not just for you and your own growth, but like true heart centered, like spiritual work benefits others. And that could mean just your really small, circle that is super important for the healing of this world, which would be your family, right? And just the way that when you are heart led and when you're able to listen to your heart and the calling and like the longings of your heart, the way your family, your immediate community benefits. And then the bubble just sort of extends from there, like I know sometimes people can listen to like people like us and think, well, like I still have this corporate job, right? Or I do XYZ. I'm like in accounting. So what does that matter? Or what would I do? But even you can think of it the way that if you went to your 9 to 5 and you're connected to this heart space, right? How you show up for people with compassion and with empathy, and how valuable and what a ripple effect that is. And the other thing for me that I want to speak of with this that I've done that has made me be able to be like a lot more, I would say, empathetic and compassionate, is understanding too that within my heart, our hearts, we can create this kind of armor around our hearts. And we create that armor ultimately, I believe, because we actually love ourselves. So, like, a simple example would be if we get our heart broken, right? Like if we have a really bad breakup, it's normal and natural because we love ourselves to kind of be a little guarded, right? Maybe you're not ready to date. Maybe you're not ready to open yourself and be vulnerable to someone because your trust has been shattered. So you kind of create this armor. And that armor, if we're not conscious of how to get vulnerable and how to kind of dive in, it can just keep like we can just build upon it, right? And now we have this like whole shield, and in the guise of us thinking we're building that because we love ourselves, what actually starts to happen is now we're like a fortress. No one can get in, no one can get out. And now because we're so afraid, right, to be seen and felt and be vulnerable, now we just become really disconnected. And so letting ourselves feel that is, to me, is the work. Like I'll use terms like shadow work, for example, but you could call it, and how you do it could be, it doesn't matter to me what terminology you use, and it doesn't matter how you do it, but by like literally stripping the armor of your heart and giving yourself permission to feel safely, you can also start to like understand like there's love and there's goodness in your heart, but yet you also have to sift through like there's fear there too, right? And like there's pain, because being human is hard. And like we all will have experiences where what we want to do instinctually is like block, guard, blame, judge, like separate. And I think, again, back to like community and why I keep feeling heart-centeredly called to do things in community, because I think that's where some of that can help people take their guard down. Because even if it's one takeaway where I'm like, wow, okay, so-and-so said that day, and that really resonated. And maybe it's 6 months from now, maybe it's a year from now, but somehow something I witnessed in one person, right, might just be the key to me, like chipping away a little bit or giving myself permission a little bit to like listen here, like love is a risk. Opening your heart is a risk. And it takes courage and it takes bravery. And when you do it, it's like the more you do it, the more also you understand why some people don't do it, because it is hard. And like once you go on the healing journey, or once you become conscious of what you were unconscious about, you can't unsee it anymore, right? And that's like, I mean, I know you and I have talked about things like this. It's a double-edged sword, right? It's like with food. Once you know what's in food, you can't unsee it. And then you're trying to eat something you once blindly ate. And now you're like, oh my God, So, it's like, it does take courage, and that's all easier in community, because at least we can laugh about some of the ridiculousness of the world.
Yeah. Oh, it's so beautiful. And I'm definitely excited to have you back, because you also have some really bold and brave and truly insightful teaching when it comes to the feminine and masculinity. And I'm really excited to have you back. So if you guys want to hear more about the feminine and the masculine from Beth, make sure you leave a comment below this episode, because we will be super excited to have you back. And I do believe in how brave and how courageous we are when we give ourselves permission to be witnessed, and when we stand witness of others, when we hold that space. And as humans, we are natural mimickers. And so it does take us watching, having it modeled for us, where we will be more inclined to give ourselves permission. And we see this from infancy. Like, kids don't come out of the womb thinking they want to walk on two legs. However, they witness it happening and they get hungry to have the same kind of freedom. And I always know that what you and I do as our body of work, and many of our fellow friends and warriors too, is to model that freedom that we choose to give ourselves, and also walk through the messy parts in which we're far from perfect, right? I say we strive for excellence rather than perfection. I leave that to God for me. Like, I have zero expectation of perfection for me. And I do love moving towards excellence alongside of you. And I get so inspired by all that you do. And I know our warriors are going to be super excited too. So before I let you go for this episode, and I'm already baiting you, bringing you back for some masculine, feminine, I would love for you to tell people how they can find you. What are the best ways? And then we're going to put it all below the show notes too. However, what's the best way if someone is like, ooh, that Beth James, that one is for me? What are the best ways, or your most preferred ways, that they reach out to you?
Yeah, awesome. Well, I would say probably email. Email will always keep you up to date, and that would be on my website, which we'll link, which is barefootandfreeyoga.com. And then probably social media, preferably Instagram. I have 2 different Instagrams. So Barefoot and Free Yoga has an Instagram, and then Beth James Yoga has an Instagram. And I mean, my work is like, I have the work that I do, and then I have the offerings, that I'm offering, that I'm a part of, but I'm also showcasing lots of other amazing people. So those would probably be the 2 best places to find me.
Awesome. Well, I hope that warriors come in droves. And I know that, again, you guys will be able to see it all below. And I'm so appreciative of you spending time with us, and truly all that you do, because you do exactly that. You cultivate an opportunity. And I look to you as someone who is so inspiring, because shared mission, like Wellness Warrior Collective, is the space in which lots of beautiful warriors get to bring forth their brilliance. And then I have my own mission, my own brand, my own offering. And we also have our own opinions. And they're not always that of everybody within the Wellness Warrior Collective, or everyone within Barefoot and Free Yoga community. They're again, one larger mission, and I'm grateful to be part of your mission every opportunity I get. And thank you for the way that you lead with your heart in this world, and how you ensure that the rest of us also get an opportunity to give ourselves permission. So thank you, sweet sister. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much. I love you.
I love you too. I love you too. And warriors, make sure that you join in, come and snag a spot on the brand new app, Wellness Warrior Hub. We are so excited. We'll be launching on the Google Play Store here soon too. We just secured our last tester that it will take for us to have our app on both interfaces. So make sure you come and join us. Definitely look forward to having people like Beth, maybe even Beth if she'll say yes, come bring some of their wisdom to that platform where you're going to get greater insight into the way in which you can amplify the wellness warrior within. So thank you for taking time to listen to this episode and any episode that you have spent with us. And we'll look forward to all those that are coming too. And again, Beth James, I absolutely love you and I appreciate you. Love and light, sweet sister.